Hi everyone, I'm Arfat from BuilderAddon, and in this video I'll show you how you can build your entire site in Oxygen without ever dealing with breakpoints. You can do that by using the fluid layout, fluid typography and the fluid sizing features from BuilderAddon for Oxygen. Let's start with the fluid layout, and to show you how it works, I'll first add a section, and inside this section I'll add some buttons. Maybe duplicate it twice. Then you will probably want these buttons to stack side by side. For that, I'll go back to the parent element, which is this section, and select horizontal. Now you will probably want these buttons to stretch to fill up this entire space. For this, I'll go down, and here you will see some new options from BuilderAddon for Oxygen under this Fluid Children heading. From here, I can either select flexible or equal to have all the child elements stretched to fill up the entire space. I can also have a gap like 20 pixels to have a gap in between these child elements. But you will also notice that flexible and equal both doing the same thing, but there is a difference. And to show you that, I'll first remove some content from these buttons, and from this button I'll maybe remove this part. And now if I go back to the parent element and select flexible, you will see that the shortest button have the shortest content and the longest button have the longest content. That's because when flexible is selected, all the child elements will maintain their individual width but stretch to fill up the entire space. But when equal is selected, all the child elements will be the same width. And now I'll select flexible and go down the breakpoints. And you will notice that all the buttons are now stacking side by side, so they are responsive. So if I go back and under flex wrap select wrap and now go to any breakpoints, you will see that the buttons are now automatically responsive. So when any buttons doesn't fit in the same row, the last button gets down to a new row. And that's why by this mobile breakpoint, all the child elements are stacking in their own row. Beside this, there are some more options like this min width and this max width properties. So if I set a percentage and give it 50, then all the child elements will now have at least 50% of the total width. And because the last element is a single element and there isn't a second one to fill up the other 50%, this one is taking up the entire width. But you can also modify this behavior by setting it to none or removing any one of these. And from here you can select center, right, left or anything. Besides setting a percent value, you can also set any other units here. But I'll select a pixel value and set it to 300. And select flexible or equal as needed. And then if I go down any breakpoints, you will see that as soon as any one of the child elements tries to become less than 300 pixels, the last child element goes to a new row. And this is how all the buttons are now responsive across all the breakpoints without you needing to do any work. And you can also use min width and max width in combination with one another. Now beside layout, you need to deal with breakpoints for all your font sizes and for some of your sizing properties. So let's now talk about the fluid typography feature. I'll first remove this section and add a new section, and inside this section I'll add a heading. And to demonstrate better how this fluid typography feature works, I'll set the font size so that the text occupies the entire line. And now go down to the minimum breakpoint and set a font size so that it now takes up the entire line. But you could set any value in here, but for better demonstration, I'm setting a value that makes the text occupy the entire width. And now if I go to any of these breakpoints, you will see that the text isn't responsive. But in any of these breakpoints, if I set fluid typography, you will see that now at every breakpoint, the text is fluid and being adjusted according to this font size. So at this breakpoint, the font size is 56 and at this maybe it is 55, 54 or something like this, and then starts reducing slightly and by this breakpoint it is 17 pixel. And this is how, instead of setting a different font size at these different breakpoints, you can just set a font size value at the maximum breakpoint and at the minimum breakpoint and turn on the fluid typography feature. This fluid typography option is also available with all your text elements. As you can see, this fluid typography option, but you can also use this with any elements really. So if I select this section and go to typography option, you will see this fluid typography option. Now besides fluid typography, BuilderAddon for Oxygen provides you fluid feature with all your sizing element. So if I say select any element and go to this size and spacing tab, you will see this fluid padding, margin, width and fluid height checkboxes. So let's see how this works. So I'll first set a padding top maybe 300 pixel, and then as you can see in all these breakpoints the padding top is set to 300 pixel, but I'll come back to this minimum breakpoint and set it to 0, and as you can see all the other ones are set to 300. But if I turn on fluid padding, then you will see that automatically all the paddings are now responsive. So it starts at 300 at this breakpoint and then reduces slowly, and by this breakpoint it becomes 0. And not just padding, it works for all your width, height, margin and all other sizing properties similarly. And this is how you can build your entire site in Oxygen without ever dealing with these breakpoints. Beside these fluid features, BuilderAddon for Oxygen comes with some other features like these global styles, these presets and many other features. If you want to check out how these work, check out the link from the description. This will be all for this video. Thank you for watching. Bye.